Cool. Hey everyone. We're gonna start. Thanks for coming. This is the sixth homeschool talk and the last session of the first semester. I'm really excited to showcase Jasmine Nyende today. She's talking about art and craft in relation to earthquakes and damage. She's a new media artist based in LA. Jasmine,
Hi.
I'm gonna try to make you full screen. There you go. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Jasmine Nyende. It's great to be here with y'all. Excited about this talk. Y'all hear me? Is that a vibe?
Oh, are you echoing? Sorry, let me mute myself.
Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, so I decided to start making work about earthquakes around the same time I start to make work about the LA riots and about these things that cause a lot of damage at one time. And I'm really curious about that and like this. And so on my birthday, on June 2nd, I went to this artist talk it wasn't an artist talk, it was like one of the like free events that they have at the LACMA sometimes. And I went to one where it was about this vase. And this vase that they put in all these different, and they took this one vase that was from Italy or some shit like that. And they they collected all the work surrounding this one vase. Like the remakes of it, they made their own remakes of it. And like this whole room was dedicated to this one huge vase. And so the show was about the ways that like they 3D printed the vase. They had one made out of steel because the original vase was made out of marble. And they had one made out of steel, and like they had artworks about the movement of the vase and things like that. And so one thing that happened to this vase when it was in California is that there was a part like it got destroyed during an earthquake. And I'm so curious about that, and also in relation to like the LACMA and to like institutions like museums and like the institutions that kind of protect these pieces, and like what can't we protect these art pieces from? What can't these white walls of this empire, of this like art system, what can it protect the work from? And I thought it was like, what's something that's bigger than like these institutions like the LACMA, something that can even rattle like the outside, like what's encasing the vase like outside. And so yeah, and I think that's really interesting, and about Los Angeles and how like there's this fear of earthquakes all the time. And like it was one of the first times I thought about these earthquakes, like not being able to protect something so valuable, you know. And so I have been thinking about this idea of like of marble, and the in this research around marble, I found out the Library of Congress is like the columns and all of the inside of the American Library of Congress is made out of marble. And so I'm so curious about this, and like how the Library of Congress is not in fear of an earthquake, of course, because of its location. But I'm curious about ways that like this marble could also break, like this empire can also fall, and it's like clean thing, and like what and how cracks are made and divided, and like it's separating out all these pieces. And so with this material of marble and like and like learning about the cracks of this piece, and like what the LACMA did to protect the piece and fix it and recast it and make sure it still had that like authentic look of like kind of like commodifying the cracks afterwards, like, oh, it survived, and like it's something that drew in more of an audience afterwards, like this huge like piece from like the 16th century, like this like monumental thing. And it's really heavy too, and like huge, and like they had to build a new pedestal for it. And like listening to all of the ways that they've had to keep some of the cracks to like keep it authentic versus fixing it to make it still have the same integrity. And I'm curious about how those decisions were made, and like this idea of looking damaged, and like making sure that you can kind of keep some remnants of this like huge natural disaster that happened, like keep some of it there while still keeping the integrity of like the perfect pristine marble sculpture. And on the vase was this like this olive branch with these two boys playing like with two sides of the branch, and olive branch and grape leaves and things like that. And one of the cracks was on one of the grape leaves and like divided divided one of the leaves. And I was obsessed with that crack. I thought that crack was really beautiful and revealed a lot of like the changing meaning of it because it cracked the leaf. And so I think, so then I'm also curious about that because like a part of my practice has always had this kind of like biophilia like meaning behind it. For example, like for my thesis when I was in school, it was about mold and about like what mold can teach us about viral culture and about the way that science is used and kind of like in like science being used in rhetoric and science and like the history of how mold became what we think of it now and the ways that we can learn about that without like just a history textbook, like the ways we can learn about the history of mold through law cases and novels and things like that. And so when I was thinking about that and like thinking about the ways that like Mother Earth always has this kind of like femme feel, like people always kind of give like the earth this like womanly or like femme quality, like Mother Earth, Mother Gaia, things like that. And so then like so what is an earthquake but like this like and then like my work is also about ephemeral sculptures and like ephemeral, but like ephemeral as in like kind of like fleeting moments of these of destruction, fleeting moments of whatever I'm trying to get at. So like with this earthquake of like this fleeting moment of this just huge destruction and like the crumbling that comes from that. And so I wanted to do more research about that. I wanted to do more work about the ways that like earthquakes destroy art and like the ways that like earthquakes create ripples and meanings and like this like the revealing of this damage and like what else is it? So then so yeah, art destroyed by large movements, like large motions and like yeah, like this like structure that's so symbolic of an empire being destroyed by this like movement that's uncontrollable. And I think that's really cool. And I'm and they're talking a lot about how these cracks can also help reveal, like help with like carbon dating and realizing information about like the travel that it's been on. And carbon dating of this marble piece is something that I like to think with when I make my ephemeral sculptures, and like what do my videos reveal about the time if it's being watched 20 years in the future? Like what are the ways that it will be carbon dated? Like the glitch, what will the glitch reveal about like the system or whatever it is, like this like when I'm trying to build like work that is intangible but still it will reveal a lot about the time. And so and one of the things that they do with carbon dating is they like isolate out one element of it, like isolate out one crack, isolate out one dent or like one like section of it. And so research being based in this like isolation of damage, isolation of a break in time, isolation of like a break. And so yeah, so now so also I have a tattoo on my arm of a vase, and what inspired this tattoo is I went to the Portland Craft and Art Museum, and which is no longer there because of funding. And so I went to the Portland Craft Museum, and when they had the exhibition up was about glass and vases made of glass and different people making glass work. And so I saw one section that had faces on vases, and I thought they were gorgeous. And so I drew out or like sketched out kind of like what I wanted it to look like, and like what, like how I can like blend all these faces into like one face, and also like and I thought that was really, and I thought and I think glass is also something that's shatterable and can like just and then like fall into pieces. And it was, and then I wanted to get the tattoo originally to cover up this scar that I got while I was in Vietnam in the Mekong Delta when I was like biking. I like scraped my arm on like something, and so I wanted to get a tattoo to like have the tattoo base kind of take the scar and be a part of the tattoo, but we didn't have enough time. So instead, the scar is just like kind of like hovering in this in-between part between the what was originally gonna be a base, like a pedestal, but we never have time, so it's just like kind of like this floating halo thing, and the vase itself. And so I'm really curious about that too, and like how this is a part of this is inspired by the Portland Art Craft Museum, like the Portland Folk Art and Craft Museum, which is no longer there. And just thinking about this scar from a time from when I was in Vietnam for studying abroad, which is also a part of like, and like I'm thinking about empires and like the American Empire, and then I was studying abroad, and like just like all these like kind of icky ways of like wanting to like all these like what am I trying to, how did it written down? So like this like this kind of like space between, you know, like this like space between meanings, and like the damage that that has happened to like my own body or whatever. And so yeah, and so with the work that, and so then also, so thinking a lot about these ways that art and ephemeral work intersect with like destruction that's out of our control. And so growing up in Los Angeles, I've had quite a few experiences with earthquakes. Like one of my first memories of, one of my first memories of being in an earthquake was when I was 13, and I was in bed, like I think I was like masturbating. I was masturbating in bed, and then the house started shaking and like things like that. And like it was an earthquake, but like I was just kind of like still not really understanding what was going on. And then I flipped on the TV, and it was like an earthquake. And it was so funny because like, the earthquake was still happening, and the news was reporting on the earthquake like at the same time or something. And I was just like, so I was like in bed experiencing an earthquake while watching about the same earthquake happening, because earthquakes like happen for like a long, like it'll be like a stop, and then it'll be an aftershake, and it'll like stop, and it'll be an aftershake. And so and then another experience that I've had in an earthquake, like a few years later, was when I was in a car. I was in my uncle's. It was in my uncle's car, and then like I think it was an Impala. We were driving down. And when you're in a car and during an earthquake, you can't feel it because you're in motion, but you can still watch other people experience the earthquake. And so like being in this car driving while watching other people kind of react to this earthquake and like stop where they are, and like watching something while being in this moving object, like what kept me in motion, what kept me from feeling the motion of this earthquake. And so I've been thinking about writing about these moments of being like woken up from like stopping, like being 13 and stopping masturbating from like an earthquake, or like being in a car while and like writing from these moments, and like thinking about thinking about these mild moments of being within this earthquake. And so yeah, and so I am going to read a piece now. I'm going to read a book. I'm going to read a poem from one of my favorite poets who was writing during this interesting time, but who was writing around the turn of the 20th century. So okay, so her name is Michelle T. Clinton, and she was writing during the late 90s about Los Angeles. And this is one of the poems that she wrote that kind of relate to this feeling I'm getting at. Okay, this poem is called "History as Class as Trash," and it's in Good Sense and the Faithless by Michelle T. Clinton. And what inspired me to think a lot about Michelle T. Clinton is that the metro station near my house has her words on the floor. Like when the metro was looking for artists to feature in their work in the metro station, they chose Michelle T. And they chose one of her least radical poems, like one of the poems that one of the only ones that doesn't mention like cunts, it doesn't mention like queerness and all these other things, and it's on my feet would touch her poem every day when I was going to work, and like my feet would touch her poem, and like thinking all about her radicalness and it being on the foundation of how I traveled around, and I value her work a lot now. And like, so here's her piece called "History as Trash." Okay. White yuppies in Santa Monica go through their attics for stuff they will sell on side streets. 25 cents for a photo of a colored gentleman in a high collar, all bougie and stiff and proper, like he could read. A portrait rescued from the trash. But my Negro hands and I picked a picture of this brother. Should have been on his grandbaby's altar. Could have been my uncle or my mother's teacher's preacher. Somebody out there in the great gap-filled Negro space. In the fascinating stomach, herding trek of Africans, tearing up and building up, all the black energy wound up, right here on my ass. That same Afro sticky history, all over the face of this man. Photograph, prove it. It's because he's a ghost. I think of death and God and the God of dead Negroes. And yo, dead Negroes bring into mind spirits and souls part smaller than a breath and death again, and all the ways Negroid bodies have died. I believe he died angry and hurt and common to the colored man of the time. I believe he died mad, and his madness survived in the air of my world. He could have been my people. Good as a great-great-great-grandmama, I didn't know the lost ancestors screaming in my dreams. And they don't got the good sense of an angel. And they don't got the patience of a slave. And they don't have no comforts, no secrets. In honor of the last ancestor, I hang my fist on nails and sacrifice fried meat, because dead voodoo relatives pick at the violence in my mouth. It's a sin and a shine they dizzy whispers. That crazed hiss lets me know. Death ain't silence, like the Jesus clone promises, and the white God of Santa Monica on the yuppie deities of indifference. Need plenty closet space, and picked out what's useless, and trades it to strangers for quarters, single bills, whatever they could get. So here's the photo that she wrote that poem about. So it's a photo of a 19th century black man that she found in a yard sale in Santa Monica. So this idea, so that's something that's a beautiful thing that I gained from her work, is being able to look at a piece, say this photograph, look at this photograph and think about how it got to your hands, where it came from, and kind of giving it your own mythology, and also knowing that this man existed in the same world you existed on the same planet that you existed on, and how stiff he looks. He looks like a marble, he looks like a bust, and how the paper instantly kind of gives him the white marbly thing, yet the shadowing itself, and how she knew he was Negroid. It's how he she described him as having Negroid features, and through the nose, and these are things that her having to carbon date his own blackness, and find look for elements of blackness within him, and it's wild that she looked and she knew that he was black. And I didn't think that. I didn't think this man was black until I read the poem and realized this man is black, and how she came to that conclusion. And so I love that. And I love the way that she talks about how our ancestors and all the ancestors of dead black folk, like, one question that I have growing up, and like one question I hear a lot, is like, where are they? Like things are still so bad. Like, why aren't they? Like, maybe I have an opinion that all of our dead ancestors are gonna like open up the earth and swallow all the evil in this world. And it's like kind of like all these way, like these like this poem brings back the fact that we can have power to bring back our own mythologies and like bring back like this like sticky Afro history. You know, like she describes history as like something that's like energy wound up, and it's like, and it like creates cysts in bodies, and like it's pussy, and it's like, and it's a like, and one thing she describes history as having like a big colored cunt and all these things like that, and like kind of like brings back like the presence and like the destruction and like all this like history has an ass crack, you know, all these things of like this wound up human energy of history. And so this gap-filled Negroid space, and I think that that's something, that's what that crack did to me. For me, it was this crack where I could see myself more revealed in that crack from that earthquake than I can see in myself in that grape leaf or something. Like, I found more meaning in that crack filled, that can take up shadow, that can feel more, like I could feel more of myself in that than I could in that marble, you know. Like, it was more about like what this earth did to this like piece that had meaning for me than like what the artist himself had to for the piece. And so yeah, like thinking about ways to bring back that sort of power to like art criticism and bring that power back to like how we relate to art. And I think that what that does is that, in my opinion, is like decolonizing the way that I relate to other pieces and like relate to this like ancient art history. Like, also because I think what also makes that interesting is like, out of all the pieces in the LACMA, all the things that we could have been talking about, all the things that we could have had this huge like money and like all the research that went into this like room for this one huge marble could have been done for any other piece in the LACMA. It could have been done for their Art of the Pacific. They're all the work kind of like pushed into the basement of the LACMA, and like all this work that's just kind of like pushed off to the sides and never gets the same attention. And of course, what's a part of all of that attention is like the white supremacy and like the fact that like they don't care. Like the LACMA is notorious for not knowing how to respect art that isn't old European art and like doesn't give it the same shine. And so thinking about that in relation to Los Angeles, this like this city that is like all about diversity and all about culture and bringing it all in, but still the only but still it's like what will it take? What movement, what motion will it take to like to kind of like destroy this this white supremacist empire? Like, what I'm trying to like, what can I learn from this? Like, from these cracks and these like destructions of these like stable, structured marble things. Like, and so yeah, going back to this poem and like this gap-filled space, and it's like and this idea of like all these pieces that are in the LACMA, why are they in the LACMA? You know, like bringing back that idea of like this Negroid space, and like that's like such a Negroid, like it's like the questions that like this idea of like how did this piece get here is something that relates to like the trade and like the chattel, like the way that like how like this global flux of material and of these bodies of work, these huge heavy bodies. And so yeah, and so when she talks about how this photo should be like, why is this photo in her hands? Why is this photo in the hands of Michelle T. Clinton, an artist at a yard sale in Santa Monica instead of in the hands of this person's granddaughter, or like in the hands of, or like on this family's altar. Like, why is this marble piece in this museum? Or like, why, like, for example, after I saw that vase, I went downstairs and saw the art of the Pacific exhibition, and like one of the pieces they had was a shaft from a priest, and the under it, and they had like no information about this, like obviously like hugely spiritual like object, and the only title it had was like spiritual artifact, and a little bit about how priests used it. And I was like, okay, then why is it not still with priests? How is it in the LACMA now? How did it get here and not somewhere else? And so like this idea of like this like and so yeah, and so I think that like the journeys that like and like that journey is also related to the journey of how I got to LA. You know, like that journey is related to the fact that like how my mother got to Kentucky, how my mother's family got to Kentucky, and how my mother's family got to LA, and like how my father came to LA, and like all these like the journeys and the empires that all exist kind of like led us all to this like one space. And I'm like curious about that, and like this and what is that like earth? And so yeah, okay, also I'm gonna keep reading the poem. I didn't finish reading the poem. I want to stop and take a break and then like talk about that half. Okay, so here's the other half of the poem. The voice of the rotten mother booms like a ghetto blaster. The sound of the bad root makes me hate music. I ask of the dope. I say to the smoke, can I get a hit? Can I get hidden from the room where my mother's puking is loudest, where her phlegm and asthma medicine, her spotted face believes I put out dirty, just like she says I was, bitch. I stay stoned and flush it up with coffee. The flaps of my vagina sticky. It ain't like it was you. It ain't like it was something you gotta remember, or go in the room where she slobber and spittle, where I suckled and spit. It ain't like Locke's work on my mind. Another bastard can't pick it open. Never needed his constant weed, the voice of the bad root, kicks and cursed words, the sounds of the rotten mother's scream. So, yeah, so this is another thing that I really love, this idea of like a rotten mother and yeah, so yeah. And I'm always very curious about when black femme poets describe themselves as being like stunned or being like stoned or like that, and then like writing of that moment. That's another reason I wanted to isolate this piece and like isolate the second half, and like this idea of like just like, or like even just frozen in time, just still for one moment, and like that, like staying stoned, and like what the moment that stunned her is when her mother called her a bitch. You know, this like larger, this larger thing that brought her to this world called her a bitch. And so this idea, and like, and that kept her there stoned, like the way that this vase, and like the vases, and like the vase, like, and like I was looking at like thinking about the stone vase, and like how vases contain, how this like stone marble vase was meant to like contain water, and like meant to like hold flowers, and meant to be a part of like religious things, and how like something that stays stationary, something that like stays there, and like the only thing that can like change her from that motion is like right from that moment of being stunned. And like something that like, and that's something I value about her work as well. Like she'll write a lot about her relationship to like moments that just like stop her. And I think that's something that makes her such a brilliant poet, and such like so great at writing about these like ephemeral moments. Okay, so now I'm going to okay, so this idea of shaking, of like motion destroying like hard objects, motions destroying like hard marble things. And so I'm doing this talk from my bathtub, which is like this marbly look thing, and I think that because I wanted to have the substance that I'm describing with me when I'm talking about this work. And so let me see. And so a few weeks ago, I did a talk at Lost Wax. Lost Wax was a show curated by Hannah Gurma, and the show was about the ways that wax casting used to happen, and like bronzing, and the ways that we would make sculptures through creating like a cast of it, and then yeah, and so like these hardened casts, and so it was all, the show was curated and featured art from Black female artists and Black femme artists, and so like this idea of like having to exist within this already cast object, already like all the so art about defying stereotypes, about defying the mold or the cast that was made for you. And so I did this piece about balloons, and about because I'm obsessed with I'm obsessed with the ways that like we internalize the way that like contemporary art is brought to the public, and like these huge like monuments to contemporary art. And so at the time I was thinking about Jeff Koons's balloon animals, and like those balloons, and like balloon animals are ephemeral, like they don't exist forever, like, you know, like there's something that pop, they lose their air. But what Jeff Koons did is that he made them sculptures. He made these huge steel aluminum sculptures of these balloon animals. And so he took something that was ephemeral and he took the ephemerality away from balloon animals to sell on the market, to sell in the mainstream art market, and like have it be iconic, like have it become an icon, you know, something that like there's one in the Broad, you know, like have it be like an icon for these institutions. And so I take these balloons. So I pumped up all these balloons, and I made a balloon like structure around me. So I attached them all and put them all around me, and I made this like thing that surrounded my body while reading my own poetry. And so then I put all the balloons together, and then I took a toothpick and started popping them, and related the sound of the popping to gunshots, and like the sounds of like life being taken away from these balloons, and like taking like the breath leaving these these waxy, like the sound relating to like the leaving of air and the leaving of like the breath from the balloons. And so what was I saying? Oh, okay, so like I'm curious about like I'm curious about the sound of that marble piece breaking, and like the sound of it like clashing. And so then I'm trying to, like, so then, wait, what was I? Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought. Where was I? Okay, so, okay, I'm just gonna, okay, the material, marbles, earthquakes, shaking, okay, okay, we're just gonna move on. Okay, so, let's see. Another, so relating back to this idea of like, of the earth opening up, and this idea of like the time-based like nature of an earthquake. Another line that I like from Michelle T. Clinton is she describes instead of Mother Earth, she describes like this planet as like a zit-faced black girl who's throwing a temper tantrum. So instead of Mother Earth, it's like a zit-faced black teen who's emotional and going through a lot, and people keep fucking with her, and like people keep trying to change her, and she doesn't get any respect, and like all this shit. And then like maybe the earthquake is like this temper tantrum, and like to destroy this like fucking like empire, and like the fact that LA is so prone to them, and like and so now I'm going to read my own poem that I wrote. Okay, this poem is called Fault Lines Wrapped in Twine. Write a poem using only images. Write a poem devoid of intimacy. Write a poem about all the times you hear about Los Angeles being described as a mosaic. Write a poem about all the ways that Los Angeles has been written about as a stage. Write a poem about decay. Write a poem about the ephemeral natures of droughts and evaporation and the extended life of those forms. Write a poem about closure. Natural disasters are subjective. Natural disasters, like being sick, like being in a crisis, like responding to your own body. Natural disasters, like your body in a space is not supposed to be, like your body in America, like your body coded Black, like your body coded in a narrative of chronic illness, a narrative of constant resistance, of constant survival, loud and soft and sound and getting work done and business as usual and violence as usual and the trauma and re-trauma of telling your story, of telling and telling and telling, of making your honesty clear on a page to be commodified, to be taken, to become a character that lives on without you. Write a poem about economic vulnerability. Write a poem about how it feels to transition out of pain, out of illness, out of trauma. Write a poem about how it feels to be selfish. Write a poem about how it feels to experience joy. Write a poem about how it feels to be healthy and how to be a healthy Black body is almost as hard as being a live Black body, is almost as hard as being a loud Black body, is almost as hard as being alive. Write a poem about honesty. Write a poem about being online. Write a poem about not trying to live on the altar, not trying to live in the sight of your ancestors, about getting work done, about violence as usual, about memories, about narratives, about the invisibility of being visible. Write a poem about policing. Write a poem about the violence and the way that your body responds to it. Write a poem about trying to live, about trying to be, about not trying to be sick of this crisis. So, I mentioned earlier how I started to think about earthquakes when I started to make work about the LA riots. And so that's because I think that these are two things that kind of iconicize LA for me, and or two things that and LA is so interesting because it's the place where people come to, like New York, it's a place people fucking come to, like all the time. It's like a mecca of sorts, you know, like people come here to reach their dreams, you know, like dreams of being an actor, being an artist, whatever. And in the art world, I can count on my hand how many Black artists are actually from LA, actually have like memories of growing up here, like memories of like not coming here to like make their heart, like make their dreams come true. So and I can count on one hand how many Black artists from South Central, from these places, from LA, making work about Los Angeles and making work about being from in this place too. Because there's such a call to make work about LA, but like not really from people who like actually have like strong ties, like family ties and like roots here. And how like it's a place where like roots don't really matter, you know, it's like known for its like shallowness. Yeah, it's also known for like the roots of earthquakes, so like the LA riots. So I live around the corner from the center of the LA riots, and I have this photo of this street corner that was completely destroyed, I was curious about how how South LA rebuilt itself after the LA riots, and how in a lot of ways it didn't rebuild itself because it didn't have the funding to do that. It didn't have the money, the capital to really be about building itself. So a lot of its destruction is still there. Like there's still walls from fires. Businesses are still like completely out of haven't been open since the riots. And so there's this photo I have of the businesses that came into this corner after the riots and could rebuild. And so I have a photo of that, and I printed it out, and it's on my wall in my room, and it's like this corner, and it has and so then one day my sister came up to me and was like, "Oh, Jasmine, I saw the corner you're talking about." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" She was like, "Oh, I recognize the corner. I was driving here and I drove by Normandy and Florence, which is the corner I'm talking about. And I recognize the scenery from your art." Like, I was like, "Oh, that's what that image is of." And so I thought that was really interesting. And like this idea of like her kind of recognizing the physical landscape through my own work. And I know and that seems like, and it's like, I don't know, like that was like one, like that was a very profound moment for me as an artist. Like whoa, like she recognized a physical place through a work that I made, you know, like she looked at something, like she was out in her life and she looked at something, she was like, wow, like that's the same street corner that's in Jasmine's room. And so, and like, she didn't know the meaning behind the piece or why I picked the street corner, but she recognized it from my image. And so anyway, so I was thinking about like her, like relating that and her kind of being an art historian in that moment of like that's the same piece that's in Jasmine's room. And like, so yeah, back to roots and like this LA Riots. And I think that a reason why South Central hasn't been rebuilt is like, I think that like, say for example, the LA Riots and like all this destruction, like there was millions, like it was a multi-million-dollar just destroy like millions of dollars in LA public property, businesses just destroyed, wiped out, stolen, looted, like miles of the streets just like destroyed, just fire, and there are over 60 deaths and like tons of injuries. It's like all this damage, and how if all this damage was created from a natural disaster, there would have been more of a rebuild. Like say if it was an earthquake that like opened up that like chaos, but it wasn't. It was a man-made disaster. You know, it was something that like it was a different kind of movement. You know, it was a different type of mass frustration, a different type of like mass temper tantrum. You know, of like it was a different type of mass up like movement of shaking and like just like of destruction of like a different kind of pounding of destroying this like marble statue of fucking LA. You know, a different type of like revolt, a different type of like creating of destruction. And so and like watching the businesses that could rebuild and like it's a way how it's like the hood is always, every hood is constructed. If you go into any American hood, every ghetto is made. Every single ghetto is made. Like it's made in its perfection. A project was a project. A project that someone lives in was somebody else's project. Like someone made that shit happen. And like that's like the basis of all my art to like kind of like breathe in. Like that shit can just happen on its own. Like these things are like you know, like these are man-made like disasters and like what we can like learn from and like how we can like kind of work with that and like all the different methods and ways that like people have worked with that and like with that knowledge. Okay, so now I'm going to read another poem by Michelle T. Clinton. And she was writing during the time of, okay, so this is a poem that she wrote called Why I Hate Music, for and against a blues aesthetic. I want to talk bad about you. I want to confiscate your comforter, strip off your party noise, and force the remains of a semi-conquered race into the soft centers of your ears. I want to dissect your demigods, those media-drunk heroes and sheroes, those pedicured fineness, their lame, tame lyrics, that Xerox and recycle, the tickle of romantic love, like all we've got to do in this life, in this world, and fuck the fuckable and endure the breaks. Inside the music is a history we betray. Inside the saxophone is a trace of Holocaust wisdom, lesson burned into underclass, skin we go dumb to. Pay attention. Black ass slaves distilled the hurt of humiliation into a musical code. the nouveau Negro Jesus, partied into Christian tents and hallucinated grace that mutated into jazz and transfigured the negritude, blues into white metal rock and rap. And here we are in the wake of neo upper class colored entertainers who do benefits for African famines, who do charity for burnt out farmers. Here we are with ghetto ex-brothers rapping and lounging and lusting in their zillion-dollar homes. Once fame invades their body space, they swell up like a greedy penis and hire Mexicans to cut their weaves. They do interviews, they give intimacy. They do interviews and give intimacy. They do interviews and give intimacy to airbrush photos and admit they knew it. They were special from the start. You eat their trance like a tranquilizer. I hate you because you're happy, because a CD and heavy-duty speakers erase your genetic guilt, because a rhythm and wordless melody pacifies you like a common beast. You are soothed and cooled, and your numbers are enormous. So to kind of like do some, so what I love about this poem is she talks about how trauma and like humiliation is like distilled into Negro spirituals, which then became blues, which then became rap, which then became rock, which then became, and how like earthquakes are like this trauma, this destruction, this death is everywhere, It's like it's kind of distilled into like the breath that fills the saxophone. And so and like I'm curious about this form of wisdom, this form of like knowledge and like what that means. And like as myself as a Black woman making ephemeral sculptures, making ephemeral work, like is the knowledge of slavery and is that wisdom in that ephemerality? Like is it what gives it that quality, that like, is that a part of like what builds is that a part of the stone that I'm cutting at when I make ephemeral sculptures and things like that? So yeah, and like she talks about this like this burden and like this like and like sorry, I'm like, okay, cool. 1 second. Okay. And like tonight, it's really funny. And like now that I'm out of college, I'm out of school, I've been trying to figure out ways to like balance, try to survive in this fucked up. LA is so like trying to like survive as an artist in LA is extremely difficult. And like I sometimes get gigs and get modeling and stuff, and I'm like just trying to and like tonight I'm supposed to go to this like BT Award after party thing, and that's what I just got a text about. And it's like, and I wanted to read this poem about that as well, because it's so much about navigating like my own politics and like the ideas of like every day, like whenever I go to these art events and whenever I go out to like the LACMA, I'm starting from South Central. I'm starting out from the root of like all of the like the root of starting from here and going outwards, like starting from South Central, starting from Compton, starting from all these places, like, and then going to the fucking BET Awards, like to go to this Brian Tiller after party or whatever I was hired to go to, but they haven't paid me, but I don't know, it's just so fucked. But anyway, thinking about this and like thinking about this poem that Michelle wrote and about the fucking BET Awards and like what that sculpture and like these are like what does that mean, and like there's this line that I really like and about like the rappers that will be there, and like this idea of like when rappers make it from coming out of the hood, come from South Central, and like me as myself as an artist and like coming out of South Central to like and like make like getting offered millions to kind of become an entertainer, become a white entertainer, to fill the airspace of those Dre beats. You know, that's what rappers basically are, like to fill that airspace so that like so anyway, like this like thing of like, and to admit it, they knew they were special. They knew it from the start, like, and like to kind of be very critical of that because like duh, like that's what this industry is driven off of, like that feeling of like I'm the different one. Like I don't have to worry about my family back in the hood because like, you know, I'm here now, and that's what LA brings people to do. You know, it kind of like brings people back to this like you know, like there's this line about LA where everyone comes here because they thought they were better than where they came from, and I think a lot about that and like in relation, because like when I was at the audition to be at the BET Awards, and like me myself as a 6 foot tall, conventionally attractive, sometimes Black woman, and like I felt like of course I was gonna get the gig and stuff like that, but like the other people there were like this is like these are like these moments that can like make him break a career, like girls like okay, so like it was just the whole situation is kind of fucked. I feel like, well, anyway, like all of us, like all these Black women in this room fighting for a chance to be seen by Brian Tiller, like things like shit like that, like it just makes me feel so, just like oh my god, like, but I need money, like I need to survive, like you know, these like this quest to survive, this quest to like kind of survive, and like and so I'm gonna go tonight and thinking about that, and like thinking about like once fame invades their body space, they swell up like a greedy penis, and like it's like and so I'm gonna keep so again, if you want to check out the poem again and like read some more of Michelle T. Clinton, I think she has a lot of beautiful things to say in this book, and in this and this idea of like and so like thinking about this earth, and thinking about like I'm wondering, I'm so curious about if an earthquake happened at the BET Awards, and like so one thing that Michelle T. Clinton talks a lot about is like this idea of like poetry being about like releasing the girl child, her girl child conquered into captivity, like releasing that like that the girl, like that the girl child inside of her like captured in this captivity of like this captivity of white supremacy, the captivity of misogyny, the captivity of like being this moment, like when does a young Black girl come to realize that the world's trying to kill her? You know, like that moment of like coming to realize that like in essence of how people relate to my body, they will treat me like less than, like they'll treat me like the ways that like I will be like the ways that like I can gain economic freedom in this world is to be seen by like Brian Tiller, and if he sees me in attractive like or if someone there sees, if at the BET Awards sees me, this Black girl from South Central, he's come out, if someone sees me in attractive light, it can give me an opportunity to like make like, you know, like all these ways of like of survival, these ways of like of living in this city, and like these opportunities that do spring up from the damages, and like this is one of them. And there's so few opportunities like this where this is a huge deal, but then it's actually huge because there's so few opportunities for Black women, Black female models in this like realm. I don't know. So I've been thinking a lot about these objects, and like I'll think a lot about ephemeral, about the like about the work I get, and about the places where my body does feel respect, and where I do feel like I'm making a difference, and when I just feel like a prop, or when I just feel like I'm meant to be a marble statue, just standing there to kind of like prove these things about LA, to like prove that LA attracts the most beautiful women, to prove that like to keep up this dream of LA being this like center of industry, this capital of like of culture, to like keep up that dream, and like me to become a part of that like structure, and like the tension that arises from that, and like just dealing with that. Yeah. And so that's what this artist talk is about, and that's what I'm making work about, and that's what's driving my practice and keeps me going. And so if I just threw a lot of information out, but if y'all have any questions, I'd love to hear some questions, some feedback, some anything, if you want to take it off the mute.
Hey, thank you, Jasmine. So does anyone have any questions? You always have a question? Or not?
Yeah, I guess like.
Okay. Yeah, take the chair.
I guess that there's like I think it's really amazing thinking about like the lifetimes contained within that vase as the symbolic object at the center of this whole talk. And I think also like the lifetimes clearly contained within histories, and especially the lifetimes that are most frequently erased being those of Black women, especially in American history. And I was just interested because I think that when one's practice revolves around temporary sculptures or temporary forms or things that clearly have lifetimes that are much shorter than the human life, and the human life being much shorter than the like earthly timeline. I was just wondering how you feel that in your creation, how you feel that process of ending the lives of these works, but also just how you see your practice important historically, like to be important historically, because it does feel important historically for just any Black woman to be creating art in the current art historical era. So that's a lot. It's kind of a random question too. So yeah, whichever part of it.
Thank you so much for that question. That's an amazing question. So yeah, like making temporary work, especially being a Black woman making temporary work. Like the reason I make temporary work is because usually I can't afford materials. Like I couldn't afford to be a painter. I can't afford easels and like all the canvas. I don't have enough space to do all that. That's why I got into performance art. And I also feel very comfortable on stage, and I feel very comfortable like sharing and being social and talking with people. But I think that especially like being a Black woman making this contemporary type work and making making temporary work is that I feel like I'm putting myself, like I feel like motions and movements never end, you know, like my mother opening her legs to like push my Black ass out of her coochie, like that motion didn't end there because I'm still out here, you know, like that motion pushed me out, and then like the coochie that pushed my mama out, and the coochie that pushed that mama out, and like all these things that keeps happening, and like that motion and that movement, and like what we do with that like energy, and what we do with that like is basically like what starts our lives and stuff like that. And so then I think that since I can't afford a canvas and easel, I can talk about that. I can make work about when I start to feel like I can make work about those moments when I feel that disconnect from how can I describe this? I can kind of make work with movement as a material, and make work with with location as a material, and thinking like with concepts as a material. And I think that with that, and like I'm actually very happy that I didn't start off as a painter, and I'm happy that I started off working with like these ideas of like starting off with ephemerality, because it's something that if I do start to make money and I do want to transition into like making sculptures, like making work that like can live on past me, like I can live in that museum wall and become like a part of something like that will live on past my carbon like cells like dying, like that would be great. But maybe just like maybe us all together, like maybe just the memory of this, or like maybe just like the fact that like the breath coming out and like all this like maybe what the energy that we're creating here will also live on, like maybe like what we're also doing here like will live on in ways that like we don't know yet. And like, and when I go into if I do start to be able to like paint and stuff, like the memory of this will be a part of my brushstroke, and like it'll be a part of how I create like the meaning within my own paintings and stuff like that. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but I hope it does.
Oh, yeah, that was a beautiful answer. Thank you so much.
Does anyone else have any questions? I have a question if no one else has one.
Okay.
Kind of going off of that and thinking of this idea of like how actions don't just end and where they seem to end, they kind of extend indefinitely or maybe forever. In light of that, I was wondering like how you approach documentation for your ephemeral work.
I usually tell people that they can take pictures all they like, they can share my work, they can do whatever, they can share it, because I think in a way it doesn't like, but I also know that when someone takes a picture of my work or when someone takes my work, it's no longer owned by me. Like I need to provide consent usually when I tell people to take pictures, like y'all can feel free to take photos and Instagram me, like when I'm like making work, like all the time, like forever, like of course, like that's something I'll make a rule forever. Like feel free to gram me, #Nyende, do your thing. But I also have this moment where I am extremely visible in LA. Like I'm tall, dark-skinned woman. People be taking photos of me without my consent all the time, especially when I'm in these art spaces. Like I am not a prop. Like I am, okay, they think I'm cute. They want to take a picture of me next to that, to like, for example, like I had the Broad yesterday. I am not trying to support the Broad. I'm not trying to. And so then I was there because I was supporting Sarah Gale, who performed at the Broad. And someone who works at the Broad tried to take a picture of me, like looking happy there at the Broad. And I was like, I don't want to be a part of that. I'm not getting paid to look happy here. I don't want to like help to like make this place look inclusive, because the Broad, the building of the Broad, that's where my uncle used to live when he lived on the street. He lived on that same street. That's where he used to do his crack. And like the Broad being built there moved my uncle. So I'm mad at the Broad and I don't know how the Broad's gonna heal my anger, but I'm mad. I'm not trying to like, you know, at these moments of like my body, like as a Black woman making ephemeral work, then like when am I not performing? When am I not like being in the Black ephemeral artist? Like when am I not doing that? Like when are we not being artists? You know, like whenever someone's an artist, when are we not being in that artist? But like so for me, when I make ephemeral work and I'm doing my performance work, like when does that stop? And so then like and it's like moments like that make me like really, I ran from the camera, and like I would do things like that where I like just kind of like run away from the camera because I'm not calling it art. You know, like I'm not there to like, you know, I take my image kind of very seriously at this point, because like I take like me being in spaces very seriously, because like that's how I think. Like I make work about my body being in places. Like I make work about that. And so like for example, when I was auditioning this is like for the fact, not to be an extra, but but to be a part of the production of the BT afterward, like the after party, like to be a part of like when I was at the audition, I was like so like they want to take pictures of us then, like have us be a part of, and like because it'd be so like attentive to the way that my body is being positioned. And that's something that Black women have been beat out of us. It's been beat out of us to care about where, to really, really think about our bodies in spaces as historical. It's been beat out of us to care about how, to think about the fact that like in a room full of Black women, the only person getting paid was the only people getting paid was the white man controlling who was allowed to the after party, and his underling who to decide like who's cute enough to like, you know, it's like the only people in that room, in a room of black women, getting like who like, you know, it's like thinking about these like these spaces that black women are pushed into. The only people having and so then like and again in the Broad, I was only black people there. There were only a few black people. I couldn't even afford a ticket to get in, but a friend got us in, which is really great. But like, you know, it's like, and like, of course I couldn't afford to get into. It was $35 for that ticket, and then you want to take a picture of me looking happy there? Like, no, like I'm not okay with that. And like having to like, and like, you know, have to like I have to like explain why I wouldn't want my photo taken, why I have to run away, like, you know, like explaining why I, like, you know, just like I think but anyway, back to the audition thing and like this like being conscious of all the layers to like that, like, cause like all the ephemeral sculptures that encase my body already, the ephemeral sculpture of home. I'm at home. I'm in a bathtub. I'm repurposing the use of a bathtub. I'm not cleaning myself. I'm doing artist talk. You know, like these things that like these are my materials. Like these are things I work with, and like to have to prove, like to be in these spaces, you have to like prove, like I don't know, like okay, let me think how I can like kind of concise more the ideas down, yeah. So like being conscious of that's what I want to inspire more of my work. Being conscious of like these like historical modes that our bodies have traveled here. Like I wanted to talk more with the other black women in the room, and like most of them were young as well. Some people drove all the way from Texas for this opportunity. Some people drove all the way from like all these different places to come here. And like all of us didn't have full-time jobs. All of us were economically vulnerable. And just like being in this room for this opportunity, you know, like it's just like, and like working in media, and like being conscious of that has been interesting. But yeah, did that answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It was super interesting. I think a lot about like the relationship between like documentation and consent,
Mm-hmm.
and also how that relates to like the blurry line between performance and ephemeral sculpture.
Exactly. At the awards would be to look cute for their photos, to share on social media. Like they need hot girls in backgrounds. You know, like they're like, okay, can you walk in heels? How can you smile? Do you get to drop blah blah blah? My job is to entertain these people coming back from the awards. My job would be to just to basically just be a marble statue for this production, you know, for this to keep up this to keep up this dream.
Totally. Yeah, totally. I definitely am thankful for you to answer that. Does anyone else have any questions? No? Cool. I think that's all the questions, Jasmine. Do you have any final words, sir?
A lot of fun. Describes all things.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, Jasmine. Thank you so much. I'll message you later. Bye.